Hello, and welcome to the Amazon Web Services Partner Webinar Series. Our topic today features Oracle solutions on the AWS cloud to simplify your infrastructure management. My name is Sherry Sullivan. I'm here with the partner marketing team in Seattle, and I'd like to start with just a couple of housekeeping items before we begin. I'd like to let folks know that your lines have been muted, but we invite you to submit questions anytime during this webcast, simply using the Q&A web part in your browser. We'd also like to let folks know that we do make the content available post-event. You'll get a link to on demand, as well as we post the content on SlideShare and YouTube. I'm pleased to be joined today by Thuro Sadakapan, who leads the Enterprise Architecture Consulting at Apps Associates, who is one of our advanced consulting partners at AWS, as well as Tom Lazesky, who is our solutions architect with Amazon Web Services. Both bring a wealth of expertise specific to Oracle on AWS. We'll begin today with a focus of AWS kind of platform overview along with Oracle solutions, and then we'll turn it over to Apps Associates to discuss Oracle solutions, Oracle Enterprise Manager 12c, the architecture, and customer use cases. So we'll wrap up with just a few moments of Q&A at the end. So without further delay, please welcome Thuro Sadakapan and Tom Lazesky with AWS. I'll let you take it away, Tom.
Thanks a lot, Sherry. What I'm going to start with is some of the benefits of cloud computing. I'm assuming that folks on this line have some knowledge of cloud computing, but just to put it in context of what we're talking about here, I think it's a good way to talk about this is to give you an example, because I know a lot of folks on the line are dealing with this. Is your manager, your VP, someone comes along, your marketing team comes along and says, you know, we need to stand up Oracle e-Business Suite. We need to do a proof of concept on Oracle e-Business Suite. We need a terabyte of memory. We need a private network that this needs to reside on. We need access into folks in India as well as the United States. You know, can you have something up for me in the next couple of weeks? And I think next couple of weeks in a lot of cases for you folks is aggressive in terms of imagine with the cloud that you could set that up by that afternoon and go to this VP, go to this marketing person and say, listen, because there's no upfront costs, I can just go to AWS, can use my credit card, can sign up, I can get some infrastructure, I can have 1 terabyte of storage set up, I can have the compute necessary to run Oracle e-Business Suite, and it's completely self-service. You just go to the website, configure this. Also, I'll imagine that someone comes along and says, well, this POC went so well that I want to turn this into production. Well, the chances are that if you're in a classic environment where you bought some on-premise equipment, is that you would have to go out and purchase some new equipment, because this POC environment could not be leveraged in a production environment. So the easy scale up and scale down is the fact that you could take this POC environment and easily scale it into a production environment. Now, thirdly is that the time to market has been totally reduced for this example I gave you. In fact, you're looking at from time of POC to time of delivery anywhere from, depending on the life cycle you have at your company, from a matter of days to weeks, as opposed to essentially weeks or months in order to do that. And of course, low cost is a driver of this as well, because like I said, we're the one that's setting up the infrastructure. We have the infrastructure for you. We have economies of scale in terms of infrastructure. So we can provide that infrastructure not only quicker to you, but at a lower cost. And then the other thing as well is that you only pay for it. So you fire it up, you use it, you only use it for during the day. You can turn it down on the weekends. You can turn it down at any point and save everything you've done to that point. I talked a little bit about what we offer. This is infrastructure, right? So if you took a look at the 3 core components here, it's compute, storage, and database. So what do you do at a core is that you need something to do some processing, so you need some compute power. You need some storage, right? So you're going to be storing your Oracle database information somewhere, as well as any backups you may be doing, and you need something like an Oracle database in order to run it. So we provide that, as well as providing all the network that goes along with it, as well as being able to do this anywhere in the globe. So if it was your infrastructure, you would have to probably decide where you're going to host this. Running on AWS, you could host this at any one of our data centers throughout the world. And we also move up the stack slightly, and we provide some things like a Hadoop cluster, an Oracle database as a managed service through our infrastructure. So not only just providing you the raw compute, actually providing you an environment where you can run some of those services like NoSQL, like relational databases, like load balancers. So all those services are services that we have written, made industrial strength, and provide to you as part of the offering. And then development administration. So we have something called CloudWatch. It's to monitor and manage your environment, but we're going to move it up the stack a little bit in this session and talk about how the Oracle Enterprise Manager can integrate in with CloudWatch and all this infrastructure to manage your Oracle databases, applications, middle tiers, all on AWS. Just to give you an idea of the magnitude of what we're providing and how this has grown, is if you take a look at Amazon as a company, so this is the retail side of Amazon. In 2003, we had a $5.2 billion retail business, 7.8 thousand employees, and a lot of servers, obviously, to support that retail business. Well, if you take a look at AWS, which was essentially started as a company in 2006, in 2013, 7 years later, every day, so this is not like every week, every month, every day we add enough capacity in order to support that retail business the way it was in 2003. And if I go to the next slide here, you'll see why we're adding this much capacity. So we have to add this capacity in order to support the tens of thousands of customers that are now running on AWS. So in case you're not aware, and I think most people are probably aware of this, things like Pinterest, Netflix, and Netflix is on this slide. Netflix runs their entire infrastructure in order to provide you videos through AWS. So Netflix is a classic one, but what some people don't realize is that if you take a look at these names like Pfizer, Shell, some enterprise level names. So Shell is running enterprise level applications top of AWS. Pfizer is doing bioinformatics on top of AWS, as well as drug discovery. Some vendor that's not on this slide, which is a public success story as well, is Bristol Myers Squibb, is they are reduced their drug discovery process from 2.5 years to 1.7 years. So you can see, because of these benefits that I talked about, you can do that type of stuff. The other one that I wanted to point out on here specifically, because it shows you the variety. Now, I talked about Netflix, which is considered new media company, is Lionsgate, which I believe is on this slide as well. They moved a SAP and SharePoint applications. So these are classic enterprise level applications, similar to Oracle enterprise applications. So people are moving enterprise workloads as well over to AWS. In terms of where AWS stands in the marketplace, certainly you've probably seen some of these providers, and AWS is not one to go out and talk a lot about competition, but just to understand and put it in context, is there's a lot of providers out there, a lot of players out there. AWS always rates in the higher quadrant on the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And of course, security. I mean, security is something that always comes up. I mean, it's one of the things that people always say, I'm moving into the cloud. Is my environment going to be secure? Without going into too much details, this slide talks a little bit about what we provide, and that's a virtual private cloud. And that's where you can extend your data center. So essentially, you have all the same security mechanisms that you have in your data center. And the IP addresses, you look like you're just connecting and using your own infrastructure, but you're actually residing and connecting and talking to AWS. So what do we get? And we saw a little bit of this on the first slide, but this essentially shows you if you want to run on AWS, if you want to run a private cloud, pay as you go. You get pay as you go. I mentioned that, is that you spin up these instances, you can pay for them. When you use them, you don't want to use them, you don't pay for them. Private cloud, it's difficult, it's not impossible to do that. A lower overall cost because we're running, we have critical mass. When we have savings on our infrastructure, we have price reductions, we pass those on to the customer. So we're a vendor that actually, when we have cost savings, we pass those on to you. So it's a lower overall cost because we're taking our expertise and economies of scale and you're leveraging it. So you can stop capacity anytime you want. So like I said, if you're not using something on a night, a weekend, you stop, you don't pay for it. Agility, time to fail. So you can spin our stuff up. You don't have to spend a lot of money up front, and you can figure out whether what you want to do or market is going to work before you actually invest a lot in your infrastructure. So time to fail is greatly reduced. The cost to fail is greatly reduced. And you can go global in minutes. Like I said, if you wanted to set up your own data center, you would have to be concerned about where that is. Because we're global, by virtue of running on us, you're global as well. So to give you a little bit of an idea of what you would do in order to, say, use what we call hybrid, where you would extend your enterprise. So I like to call this extending the enterprise as opposed to so much hybrid. So you have certain security, you have, say, VMware image, you have a network configuration, you have your data. We provide you capabilities such as VMware import-export. So you can take VM images, import them into AWS. You can take your data and replicate it from your on-premise into AWS using something called a storage gateway. And you can move your Active Directory information into our IAM, which is our access management platform. So what does the AWS-Oracle relationship look like? This is the longest standing relationship that Oracle's had with any cloud provider. It's the longest relationship that AWS has had with any enterprise provider, and that's in 2007. 2008, they started using our compute, so EC2, which is our compute platform. In 2008, they allowed you to do secure backup, so you can use the secure backup module, which is RMAN, to back up into the cloud. And then the VM support in 2010, RDS, which is a managed service on AWS from Oracle, was offered in 2011. Test drives, which we'll talk a lot about here, and you see the test drive link, is the capability to go out and spin up anything you want, such as a Siebel, PeopleSoft database, WebLogic, Hyperion, and run it and see how it runs on AWS. And 2013 for AWS is repeatable solutions. We're coming out with reference architectures on best practices of running Oracle Database, Fusion Middleware, eBusiness Suite, and we're also coming out with prepackaged solutions called AMIs to easily deploy to AWS. The next two slides are licensing and pricing. So, and this is a question we often get a lot, like what can I run? What can I run Oracle Database? Can I run middle tier? You can run Oracle applications. So AWS Zen is fully supported by Oracle. You can run your Oracle databases and middleware on AWS Zen, which is our virtualization platform. It's the same virtualization platform that OVM runs on. We've had full support for Oracle Enterprise Linux, and there's actually 34 public AMIs out there to choose from. So everything from, like I said, Siebel to database to WebLogic, it's all prepackaged for you, so you can deploy on Oracle within hours, or you can deploy Oracle on AWS within hours. The other thing we get often asked about in terms of licensing. So any type of license you want. We realize that ELAs, ULAs are pretty popular from an Oracle perspective. You can move those over to AWS. Any licenses you have that are outside of ELA, ULA, including even OTN licenses, can be used. There's a full licensing policy document on the Oracle website, so it's provided by Oracle, not AWS. And essentially what it boils down to is that it's a 0.2 core multiplier for standard editions like SE1, SE, and a 0.5 multiplier for Enterprise Edition. It's one of the unique things with Oracle. In fact, this is a unique policy that they have with AWS for running on our cloud. The last thing I want to talk about before I turn this over to Thuru is the Oracle Test Drive. We created this program, highly successful. We've had thousands of test drives done. There are over 25 test drives out there right now, and we continue to add to them. And in fact, we're going to talk about Oracle Enterprise Manager, which is a new test drive, as well as some details of running Oracle Enterprise Manager as a service on AWS. And that's where Thuru comes in, and I'll talk to you much more about it.
Well, thank you, Tom. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is Thuru Sadagopan with Apps Associates. At Apps Associates, we started a quick brief introduction for Apps Associates. The company was founded in 2002, as you see here on the slide. We started with a simple message that there has to be a difference, and we have stuck with that theme and grown over the last 10 years to be a 600-people organization. We bring specific focus and expertise around both Oracle and Amazon Web Services infrastructure. We have established these partnerships and certifications as is shown on the screen here. In the conversation today, we're going to be focusing on running Oracle solutions on Amazon Web Services with specific focus for Oracle Enterprise Manager. Tom gave a good brief introduction of the capabilities of Amazon Web Services, infrastructure as a services, and how are some of the thousands of customers leveraging the AWS platform for running Oracle solutions. In this webinar series, we're focusing on Enterprise Manager and how can you run Enterprise Manager to manage your cloud lifecycle, your infrastructure stack across the board, both Oracle and non-Oracle solutions. The agenda is going to be a quick brief look at Enterprise Manager, the AWS platform, and the nuts and bolts that it provides to deploy solutions such as Oracle Enterprise Manager, and we'll walk through a few use cases of how an Enterprise Manager architecture would look like for deploying Oracle on AWS. So what is Enterprise Manager? It's a business-driven IT management tool. There are very few of those in the marketplace today. It allows an enterprise to manage the entire cloud lifecycle management. What we mean by that is from provisioning of servers, infrastructure, applications to configuration, administration, and management of the entire infrastructure. A complete cloud stack integrated management tool, as opposed to silos of tools that allow you to manage, say, network infrastructure, service infrastructure separately, and databases and application services separately. Enterprise Manager provides you the tools and the capabilities to manage the entire stack, all the way from servers, storage, networks, through operating systems, database, and applications. The business-driven application management focus coming from providing users the capability, providing administrators the capability to look at IT events and map them to actual business and application activity. It allows you to measure user experiences, measure, monitor, and report on business transaction management and business services management tools. Here's a quick focus or a quick look at the different functional areas that Oracle Enterprise Manager provides today. From the familiar database management and applications management that you see represented on the top and bottom, it goes through quality management, configuration management, many of the administrative activities with ERP tools such as cloning and patching and provisioning, through middleware and engineered systems management, and so on and so forth across the various infrastructure components. Let's take a look at what Enterprise Manager provides for those thousands of customers that are also leveraging the AWS infrastructure. There are plugins available with Enterprise Manager that allows users to also manage their cloud investment across the various components of the Amazon Web Services platform and be able to gather and perform performance metrics and be able to report and work with alerts and violations that could be generated with this particular tool. Let's start with a quick look at the architecture itself of the Enterprise Manager platform. Many of you are probably familiar with this tool based on your interest in attending this webinar on how to run Enterprise Manager on AWS. One of the core components of the tool is your management agents. These are the agents that are deployed across the hundreds of targets that are within an enterprise: servers, storage, applications, databases running on the servers and storage. These agent components monitor and collect data, collect metrics, and communicate with the management service. So what is represented here behind the load balancer is a highly available configuration of the management service. This is a tool, this is the infrastructure component of Enterprise Manager that allows administrators to discover and manage targets, deploy targets to remote, deploy agents to remote target environments. It also renders the UI for administering and working with the product itself. Then comes the repository, essentially an Oracle database that stores the metadata, the configuration details of the various targets, as well as the various monitoring data that is being generated by the agents themselves and being provided to the repository. The management console, as is depicted here, the cloud management console, is the interactive tool between administrators and the tool to essentially work with and operate this particular tool. And last but not least are the various plugins. Oracle Enterprise Manager provides a framework, and it comes with various plugins that are used to maintain and manage and monitor specific solutions. And there are various plugins provided by Oracle to manage the various Oracle business applications and engineered systems, as well as partner ecosystem that are developing plugins constantly and enabling and expanding the capabilities of Oracle Enterprise Manager. So how do we run Enterprise Manager on Amazon Web Services platform? So in a typical corporate data center environment today, you would have the various components of Enterprise Manager as was shown earlier: the Oracle database, the management tools, often load balanced, depending on the complexity and the maturity or the complexity of your environment, and you have the various targets. There are numerous targets typically in the enterprise. How would that look on an Amazon Web Services infrastructure? So what we're showing here is essentially a region. Amazon has various regions that are essentially data center environments around the globe. You would have a specific region and an availability zone within the region that you're operating in, and I'll talk a little bit more about regions and availability zones. Here's how you would deploy Enterprise Manager within a specific availability zone within a specific region of the AWS infrastructure as a service platform. The same database repository and as many management service nodes that are required behind an elastic load balancer, essentially a software load balancer tool that is now available. Now, how do we connect Enterprise Manager running in Amazon Web Services to your data center environments that are continuing to run your various targets? So let's look at what Amazon brings to the table for that. Oh, by the way, before I move on to that, what is this OSB Cloud module? Essentially, this is a plugin specifically developed by Amazon Web Services and Oracle for the RMAN database backup utility. RMAN utility is widely used in the enterprise today for backup and recovery for Oracle database. Amazon provides a way of having RMAN do a backup of the database directly to the S3 storage in the AWS cloud environment, and have the ability to directly have an offsite storage environment encrypted on the fly and provides robust backup capabilities. So let's look at connectivity options. So one of the first considerations from a geographical perspective as to where you would implement your Enterprise Manager environment would be the distribution of your own target systems. Where are the data centers spread across the enterprise? Your primary data centers, disaster recovery data centers, your cloud infrastructure environment that you could be leveraging. The AWS global infrastructure provides regions and availability zones as is shown on this diagram here. There are various locations: North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, South America. And there are various edge locations as well that allow you powerful points of presence, if you will, to connect to the AWS network. There are primarily two connectivity options that are available for organizations that are looking at leveraging AWS environment for your enterprise manager platform and connecting to your remote data centers. The first of which is the direct connect option that allows organizations to extend your MPLS or your corporate wide area network with lease circuits or direct circuits that you will bring to the AWS direct connect locations. But the more popular option is also to build site-to-site VPN connections, encrypted using strong industry standard IPsec protocols, and be able to connect to the AWS environment, your virtual private cloud platform, directly from your data center environments. So let's look at how that would look like now with the same diagram that I showed earlier, with your virtual private cloud environment running Oracle Enterprise Manager in the center and your various corporate data center environments now depicted on the edges. So here we are showing three different data center environments that are all connected with a virtual private cloud or a direct connect option to the virtual private cloud environment within Amazon Web Services. And what is depicted on the top right is essentially the network operations center, where the administrative personnel are working quite often 24/7, or multiple operation centers that a larger enterprise environment could potentially have around the globe. And as events are triggered in your various locations, these events are captured and they're carried through to Enterprise Manager platform and reported to your personnel as incidents. And as corrective actions are being taken, these are being able to be propagated, directly via connecting to your data centers and working on the servers and your infrastructure, or via automated tools that you may have built in to take care of the specific incidents. So this is how you would connect your global infrastructure to a centralized location that is running your Oracle Enterprise Manager platform. So once we have connectivity out of the way, the next few questions that are quite often in administrators' mind is, how do I handle the performance and the high availability considerations that are specific to my environment? Enterprise Manager is quite often a key mission-critical tool that is responsible for managing and operating and administering your various mission-critical applications around the globe. Depending on the complexity and the size of the environment, you could be dealing with hundreds of thousands of targets. So performance of the Enterprise Manager environment across the database, the OMS or the management service servers are quite important. So how does Amazon Web Services provide for meeting those performance considerations? So let's look at CPU and memory first. There are various instance types that Amazon has made available across general purpose requirements or highly CPU intensive compute optimized environments or memory optimized environments and storage optimized environments. So you have the ability to move all the way from a few cores and few gigabytes of RAM to 16 to 32 cores and a couple of hundred gigabytes of RAMs for your various workloads. EBS optimized instances. EBS here stands for Amazon terminology, which stands for Elastic Block Storage. These are storage mechanisms or storage infrastructure components that Amazon has to offer that can be leveraged by administrators for the Oracle Enterprise Manager database. They come from 1 terabyte, 1 gigabyte, all the way up to 1 terabyte in size, and also has specific guarantees for I/O requirements that your applications may have. And you're able to leverage one or more volumes and be able to handle the I/O storage requirements that your Enterprise Manager database environment could potentially have. Let's look at availability next. For high availability, one of the primary considerations within the AWS platform are the availability zones. These are distinct data center environments within each physical location. So what is shown here again are the various regions that Amazon has, and within each region there are 2 or more availability zones that are available for various organizations to provision and manage their enterprise applications. So in this example, with Enterprise Manager configured to run in your primary availability zone, you have the ability to replicate your Enterprise Manager environment across to another availability zone in the same region. We have technologies such as Route 53 that Amazon provides that has the capability to seamlessly handle DNS and rerouting of traffic that might be required depending on which availability zone the Enterprise Manager environment is operating from, without requiring any modification on your various remote target data center environments to handle any kind of failover or a high availability configuration that you need to deploy for your centralized Enterprise Manager infrastructure. A tool that is quite often used for database replication is the Data Guard functionality within an Oracle Enterprise database, Enterprise edition of the database, that allows you to have a standby environment of your Enterprise Manager readily available for a failover. It could be active Data Guard, or it could also be the traditional Data Guard of synchronizing primary and backup database environments. So let's look at how that would look like in terms of an infrastructure in the same diagram that I've depicted. What I have shown here is to now expand the Enterprise Manager deployment within the same region across two availability zones. What you saw on the left before was the primary availability zone with your database and management service infrastructure is now replicated in another availability zone where we have a standby environment. The database is synchronizing with Data Guard as shown, and there are various means or methods of synchronizing the application middle tier, the OMS tier, between the two availability zones, and rsync is a commonly used tool that is being shown here for Linux Unix platforms to be able to synchronize the application tier. Now, both of which are under the Route 53 stack, which is shown on the top of the diagram, which allows traffic coming from your remote data center environments to come through Route 53 and automatically find and work with the Enterprise Manager environment that is running in either of these two availability zones. Now, what we're showing here is a fully configured infrastructure on the disaster recovery zone or the availability zone as well. Now, that often calls for a certain amount of investment into the Enterprise Manager infrastructure, right? But Amazon provides you the elasticity capabilities that would help organizations reduce their cost of maintaining a disaster recovery environment. What we're now showing here is what we call as a scaled-down capacity or scaled-down standby environment. It is not necessary to have the full capacity of your database and application tiers for any of your business applications in a DR configuration. A database server that is only doing synchronization of transaction logs coming from your primary could be as small as it needs to be. There are customers that have a single core and 4 GB of memory for a standby database server, which is primarily just receiving logs and applying against the target standby database environment and keeping in synchronized configuration. When there is an event that causes loss of your primary data center environment for whatever reason, software or hardware, we now have the ability to leverage Amazon's elasticity and scalable model to now launch your full DR configuration that is required to handle your production workloads. So what we mean by that is that your 1-core database server could now be an 8-core or 16-core database server with all the memory it requires to be able to handle the full load, where you may have had one node for Enterprise Manager management service synchronizing with your primary. We now can bring up multiple nodes, 2 or more behind Elastic Load Balancer, and now be able to handle and operate your full Enterprise Manager capacity. As long as your various targets and remote data center environments are concerned, they lose connectivity to the primary data center environment temporarily, and once connection is restored, they move on. There are no configuration changes, DNS changes that are required at your remote data center environments in order to be able to have, connect to your Enterprise Manager environment now running in the alternate availability zone. So this is quite a powerful feature that is available for every organization to leverage with the least amount of investment into your DR infrastructure, yet being able to take advantage of and have full DR capability for your mission-critical applications on the Amazon Web Services platform. Here is a quick summary of the advantages that AWS platform has to offer for Oracle Enterprise Manager specifically. Elastic capacity, as I discussed earlier. You could grow your Oracle Enterprise Manager platform as your infrastructure grows, as you roll out Enterprise Manager across more data centers or more business applications or more infrastructure. You can start with the servers and storage capacity and expand, and you're only paying for what you use with no contractual commitments. You have the ability to have a centralized management infrastructure for OEM 12c. You don't need to have OEM deployed in every one of your data centers to locally manage each of your remote infrastructures and have multiple monitoring tools, monitoring environments for your administrative personnel, administrative staff to manage a global enterprise. You are able to operate and manage from a single central location. The multiple availability zones provide some high availability capabilities and configurations so that your systems have the ability to run and operate. It's significantly low investment costs. There is no CapEx costs, and even the OpEx costs are reduced for managing an environment from the Amazon Web Services infrastructure without any contractual commitments. I would like to talk about a specific use case, a case study for how this particular customer is leveraging Enterprise Manager. This is a global company with operations in multiple countries, as is seen here, and this is their requirement. They're running various back office applications, collaborative applications, as seen here in the first line, Exchange, SQL Server-based applications, etc. They also have a significant Oracle footprint across ERP and BI and various tools across Linux and Windows platforms. This customer was using 11G Enterprise Manager as their monitoring and management tool, business-driven IT management tool, I should say. And they are in the middle of a deployment of a DR solution for the entire stack. It is going to be in a different data center. And they would also like to upgrade from 11G to the 12C version of the Enterprise Manager platform. And they wanted to be able to administer and manage both. And their initial plan was to deploy a separate OEM 12C environment in the DR infrastructure that would be leveraged to manage and monitor the DR environment in case we were to fail over production operations to the DR data center. So what did they do? What is the solution that they're deploying today and they're leveraging today? OEM 12C on AWS, very similar to what I described in the previous discussions and slides. Centralized deployment of a tool and use that same environment to monitor both primary and DR environments, and the future expansion plans of bringing some of the remote infrastructure that are in the manufacturing facilities across the globe also into the main Enterprise Manager framework. And they will eventually decommission the current OEM deployment as this is complete. So how did Apps Associates help this company? We started off with the Cloud Assessment and Enablement project to help them understand the different workloads that could be deployed on AWS. And the Enterprise Manager, we specifically demonstrated the value of how to deploy with the test case, a proof of value, and in the process of implementing the DR environment on OEM 12C. And we're also responsible for 24/7 managed services for the entire Oracle footprint at this time. So this is definitely, a viable solution. It's no longer a concept. It's moved on to a proof of value framework. So as Tom pointed out earlier in the discussion today, there are several test drive labs that are available for those that are interested in looking at how to leverage AWS infrastructure and more specifically how to leverage Oracle solutions on AWS infrastructure. So this is a quick snapshot of the labs page on the Apps Associates website, and it particularly depicts the Enterprise Manager Cloud Control test drive lab that is available. It is there for any one of you who is interested to see how this operates. So simply register on this website and launch any of the various labs that are available today on both Amazon's website as well as Apps Associates website. With a single click, you're going to be launching your own lab environment on AWS, where a virtual private cloud and the database platform, the various targets that you're interested in managing, and the fully configured Oracle Enterprise Manager 12c environment. All of them are going to be launched based on images, and within minutes you will be getting information via email with the email that you registered for this lab, with details on how to connect to your own test drive lab environment. And it's not only for Enterprise Manager, it's available for other Oracle solutions such as Oracle BI and Oracle eBusiness. And there are many more labs that are coming up, including Fusion applications and Endeca in the next few weeks. It's not only as a lab environment, it also provides users a step-by-step guide for you to walk through and experience the various functions and features of what we're trying to highlight with each of the specific lab environments. So I would encourage all of you to look at this and then be able to leverage and explore these various test drive labs that are here to be offered. Let me move on to what we have to offer for the various organizations there today who are interested in a rapid deployment of Oracle Enterprise Manager solution. So as you notice, it's no longer a proof of concept. We're calling it a proof of value offer. The idea is there, the use cases have been established. How can this help you as your organization? So here is a proof of value offer where within 4 weeks, we are able to do an assessment and a pilot deployment phase for your environment, for your organization, where we would go through assessment phase of showing how to and design an Oracle Enterprise Manager environment running on AWS, and quickly build a pilot phase with the VPC, a virtual private cloud environment in AWS, and a fully deployed Oracle Enterprise Manager 12c environment, and managing and monitoring a specific set of applications and infrastructure that you're interested in testing this with. Configure, test, and demonstrate the architecture. Based on the results of this, you could engage further in adoption phase where we can deploy more and more of the infrastructure within the Enterprise Manager framework in 4-week cycles. With this, let me hand this over to Sherry, and we'll be glad to take any questions that you may have about this presentation.
Terrific. Well, thank you, Thuro, and Tom. Great job on providing this with some overview and considerations for running Oracle solutions on AWS and simplify the infrastructure management component. And so, folks, if you've joined us midstream, I'd like to invite you to submit your questions in the Q&A tool in your browser, and we'll open it up for some Q&A. I'm going to point this first one back to you, Thuro. In terms of can you speak a little bit more in terms of, can we manage cloud-based apps and on-premise apps with the Oracle Enterprise Manager, and any restrictions that we should consider?
Certainly, Sherry. So this Enterprise Manager tool is perfectly capable of managing what we call as hybrid solutions for your data center infrastructure configurations, whether it is your own captive data centers that are running or co-location facilities that you may have in other major data center provider facilities, or cloud-based infrastructure facilities. Enterprise Manager has the capabilities and the tools to be a truly integrated entire cloud stack management, in that from a central location you have the ability to manage across the stack. The restrictions are essentially the availability of the various plugins in terms of the entire infrastructure, and which you will find hard-pressed to find a solution gap there, as this tool is quite robust in its ability to go across operating systems, databases, network solutions, storage solutions, as well as middleware platforms.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another question coming in is maybe just a clarifying question. Is the OEM running on EC2 with sort of a database or on RDS? Can you talk a little bit more about maybe the technology that you're using on an AWS?
Yeah, certainly, Sherry. So it's a great question. So certainly someone who understands the Amazon Web Services infrastructure well. So the RDS service, the relational database service, is essentially a database as a service solution that AWS has to offer. It's a fully managed database that has the capability to operate in one availability zone with replication across other availability zones. In this example that we're showing and the customers that we're working with today for the solution, we are actually not using RDS. We're using EC2 Elastic Compute Server location with Enterprise Manager software installed and operated. So the database is actually installed just as a DBA would internally with your own server. But however, RDS is a robust solution and can be used, and we're actually going through some cycles to validate that configuration environment for Enterprise Manager, and we expect to be able to support customers leveraging RDS as well as a database engine for Enterprise Manager. So which one is a better fit? Typically, it depends on the use cases that each customer environment are looking at and your business requirements specifically, and it can be best decided by looking at your specific requirements and then proceed from there.
Hey, this is Tom, just to clarify and make sure people are clear on this, is that this is for running the OEM repository. We're looking at running it under RDS. It does not mean currently you can currently use OEM to manage and monitor Oracle databases running on RDS.
Excellent point, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying, Tom. Another question we have that I'll point back to you, Thuro, and then Tom, feel free to chime in. Is the 12c client going to be available in the AMIs through AWS in the near future, or can you talk a little bit more about the roadmap, Tom?
I think that question is probably more targeted at me. In terms of AMIs, which are the Amazon Machine Images, so that's the prepackaged software solutions that include your operating system and Oracle solutions. We are currently working hand in hand with Oracle to sort of update and upgrade all of the AMIs that are out there. What I would do is take a look, especially what we're targeting for is Oracle Open World. We plan to have a number of new releases of the AMIs for Oracle, and those should be including the 12c database, Oracle Enterprise Manager, and other solutions as well. So I would just keep your eyes open for that. And obviously at Oracle Open World, AWS has a presence there, so I'd look for us there, and hopefully we'll be able to announce some releases at that time.
Great, thanks, Tom. Another question is a clarifying question about the regions and availability zones and high availability. This person is asking, what if a region goes out? What happens? How do I recover? How do I get that real high availability? Can you speak to that, Thuro? And then Tom, feel free to add in.
Sure, yeah. So the question is, what if there is a loss of region? How can I get real high availability? Once again, great question. The example that I showed that we're using 2 availability zones within the region for the replicated HA environment to be available in terms of any kind of a failure in the first availability zone. Although it's very unlikely that entire region would be out, the solution is equally available for those of you who are also interested in a total geographical DR, right? So any kind of act of God or some event such as that, in that context, if the entire region is down, the same solution that we depicted can also be used to have your DR environment, the replicated DR environment in the other availability zone that we depicted, to be easily located in another region. For example, your primary Enterprise Manager could be on the East Coast in one of the availability zones there, whereas the DR environment could be in a different availability zone, a different region. So therefore, you can protect yourself from loss of the entire region.
Yeah, just to add a little bit through is the context of the context of regions and availability zones, just so it's clear, is that a region is, say, like US East or Singapore, Australia. So a region has at least 3 availability zones, which are separate, distinct data centers, which are on separate power grids, floodplains. So the chances of a region going down are, it's very extreme in nature. I would say start off with multi-AZ type deployments for those people that are concerned about availability in terms of AWS. The stuff that you may have seen in the past was because people weren't even replicating or having high availability across AZs. So you start with multi-data centers, which is probably in a lot of cases more than you have today. If you want multi-region, as Thru said, completely doable, possible, but I think I would recommend starting with multi-AZ, and if you're really concerned, then move to a multi-region or snapshot your information in one region to another, which is very easily done, so at least you have a copy of it, and you feel more secure that way.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tom. The next question, I'll point this back to you, Thru, is what are the target environments available in the Enterprise Manager Lab?
Yes. So the lab environment today, that if you launch, you are going to be able to work with several targets. There is an Oracle database target, I think, as most of you would expect to see in there. There's a WebLogic middleware target environment. Plus, there's also an Oracle eBusiness target environment. A more fully robust tutorial and a lab to explore the various capabilities of the applications management product, of the Enterprise Manager is coming up later this month, and it'll allow you to explore the various capabilities of the applications management product. And we also have another lab that is coming up pretty soon that is going to be showcasing the capabilities of the BI management lab, BI management pack for Oracle Enterprise Manager. So this will be continuing process of enhancing and showing various capabilities of the Enterprise Manager product in a real test drive lab environment.
Great, thank you for clarifying. We've got time for just a couple more questions, and I'm going to point this one to Tom. This person wonders if solutions like Oracle RAC are deployed across multiple data centers with redundant storage. Are they certified on AWS, or can you speak to Oracle RAC availability?
Sure. Having come from, one thing I didn't mention is having come from Oracle, I worked at Oracle for 16 years. I understand the Oracle RAC environment and the scalability and high availability it provides. We don't support on running, and I'll answer this completely. It's a fairly complex answer. I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Is that we don't support the RAC running on our infrastructure. That being said, I believe Thru talked about something called Direct Connect and Direct Connect facilities. We do have major customers running significant RAC WebLogic environments where WebLogic runs in a multi-AZ environment running on top of AWS infrastructure on EC2, with the Oracle RAC running in a Direct Connect facility with a 10 gigabit per second or 1 gigabit per second connection. So we do provide you the capability through Direct Connect to run RAC. What we also do, and we found with some of our major customers, is that they're running RAC more so because of high availability, not because of any performance or scalability requirements. And running on Oracle RDS, you can configure a multi-AZ environment similar to what Thru was talking about with OEM, Oracle Enterprise Manager, where you don't have to do any of the administration, you don't have to do any of the failover, you don't have to do any of the synchronization. It's all taken care of for you. So you run a multi-AZ Oracle RDS, and if in fact one AZ goes down, you're automatically failed over to the other. So that's been another option. So we do have alternatives and options. You cannot run it natively, but there are other solutions that are available to you.
Great, thanks, Tom. Another question related to licensing is the OEM licensed with Oracle, like performance tools, pointed to an RDS instance? Does that question make sense to you, Tom? And maybe how is it possible, or can these tools also be used against a kind of a standard ed?
Yeah, any environment you can target, because from our perspective, and I know other clouds might be different, from our perspective, it's just connecting through SQLnet. So any tool, any client that's able to talk to an Oracle instance running on EC2 or RDS is fully supported. In terms of licensing, and I'm not sure this is where the question is going, but Oracle has the packs, the performance packs, EBS has packs, and all those are additional licenses. I mean, they would be if you were running on-premise, and all those licenses are completely portable to the AWS platform as well. I don't know if you want to answer specifically around Enterprise Manager as well.
It's essentially just one other point, Tom, is that, as you highlighted earlier in your presentation, all the Oracle licensing policies are fully transportable to the AWS environment. And OEM itself, can manage, different target environments, whether it's standard edition of the database, enterprise edition of the database, that distinction is not there. So it's capable of managing all the different target environments.
Great. One final question. Tom, you mentioned Oracle World. Do you happen to know when Oracle World happens? If not, we'll get back to this person.
It is in, I should know this because I'm making, I'm making my travel plans right now. It's in through, I mean, if we just did a quick
September 26th. Actually, I was just making my travel plans before I came on this call. Yeah, September 26th. It's the last week in September.
Yeah, so I would definitely look for Apps Associates there, and definitely look for Oracle. We just got approval, I just got my notice because they're sending out notifications to folks that have been accepted as presenters, and so AWS is going to have a couple of sessions there. I'm sure Apps probably have some sessions, and some will be there as well. We're going to have a fairly significant booth there this year as well, so definitely look for us there.
Great. So on that note, thank you, Tom, and thank you, Thuro, for participating with us today and providing, again, a great overview on Oracle Solutions on AWS and the Enterprise Manager. So with that, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for taking an hour. Before you drop off the webcast, we invite you to take a very quick survey. Give us some feedback. If we didn't get to your questions, please know that we will respond to you offline, and we thank you for attending today. That concludes today's webcast.